A few months ago, I picked up the collector's editions of all three original Patlabor movies, and when I unboxed those, I said to you guys that I would be bringing reviews of each of them and then a ranking of the trilogy. Well, today is that day because we are going to be talking about Patlabor, the movie. Before I get into my thoughts though, I want to hear from you guys, so head on down to the comment section below and let me know what you think of this film, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, do you plan on watching it at some point? And while you're there, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Now, just to preface something, this is my very first experience with this franchise. I've never watched any of the series, never seen any of the spin-off stuff, so just keep that in mind when I talk about the things I liked and the things I didn't. What I'm about to say should come as absolutely no surprise to those that are versed in 80s and 90s sci-fi anime, and that's that this film is very well directed. Coming from Mamoru Oshii, who is of course most well known for directing Ghost in the Shell and its sequel Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence, and also he's written, been involved in creating things like Angel's Egg, Jinro, and then of course this franchise in the Patlabor franchise. So he's certainly no stranger to sci-fi anime, things that have thought-provoking ideas within them, ideas about technology, human evolution. You could say he is a master at this kind of thing. It's a well-made film, undeniably. Visually, this thing looks incredible. I'd say stylistically, it sits somewhere between Akira and Ghost in the Shell. Of course, Ghost in the Shell being from Mamoru Oshii, Akira being one of the all-time classic anime films, especially when it comes to sci-fi stuff. So to compare it to those two films, which I would argue are two of the most acclaimed anime films ever, you're off to a good start. It's got that futuristic but also grounded metropolis feeling that Ghost in the Shell has, and of course Akira does have as well. The super detailed backgrounds where you can tell that the animators, the artists, were paying so much attention to everything you see in the background. Almost feels like meticulously placed and meticulously created. It doesn't feel like they've phoned in any shot in this film. And even though the mecha action is few and far between, whenever you get it, it absolutely delivers. The mass destruction that you want, epic fighting, the sense of scale, the sense of these larger than life things, clashing on screen, everything you want from more grounded mecha action. This film definitely has that, especially that opening sequence, which I gotta say, what a way to start a film. Even with the grounded and gritty feeling of the world though, this film still has its cartoony elements to it, especially when it comes to characters interacting with one another and reacting to certain things. You have them making, anime, cartoony kind of faces that you'd see in like One Piece and occasionally Dragon Ball, but it's certainly not something you would have seen in Ghost in the Shell, for example. It nicely balances, taking itself seriously, but also having a little bit of fun as well. And much like Oshii's other work in Ghost in the Shell and Angel's Egg, this is a thematically rich film. It deals with evolution through technology and some of the downfalls of that, corporate politics, corruption, and ulterior motives that can run through not just industries, but law enforcement as well. Now don't get me wrong, those themes and ideas are certainly nothing new, even for, back in 1989, but it does them in a very effective way, especially when you're interweaving it into this crime mystery. Speaking of crimes and mysteries, the plan of the villain, I think, is very interestingly told. The film opens with this character committing suicide, and thus you have his whole plan play out over the course of the film without him actually around to make any amendments. It shows that he is a smart individual that was thinking way ahead of everyone else, to the point that they can uncover all of this plan and all of the intricacies behind it, but they're still, you can't completely sort out. Of course, in the end, they do kind of win as you would expect, but for a villain to craft something from the very start and then leave this plane of existence essentially and allow this stuff to play out without a hitch is pretty impressive. Whilst I do think that Patlabor the movie is a good film, it also has some flaws to it. On the topic of the villain, there's literally no motivation given to him. Now, it probably doesn't help that he commits suicide at the start of the film, so you're never able to kind of dive into the philosophy and the psychology behind it, and he does remain a mystery throughout pretty much all the film, which in some ways is to the benefit of the film, but also at times not so much, because you don't really get an idea as to why all these things are going down. Why is this virus being put into this operating system? What's the motivation behind that? So you're essentially just getting all these events that are playing out, and you don't know why the perpetrator originally planned them all. My biggest problem with the film, and it's the exact same thing that I don't like about Ghost in the Shell, and that is the characters. Don't get me wrong, they're reasonably entertaining and enjoyable to watch on screen, but I just didn't care about them. I was never invested in them. Now, like I said at the start of this video, I've not watched anything else Patlabor, so maybe if I watch the series, my thoughts on that will change. But looking at this film as almost a standalone thing, which for the most part it does work as a standalone thing, I just felt like there was virtually no character development, no like real characterization that got me invested in them, and thus whilst I did have a good time watching it, I was invested in the mystery aspect and uncovering all of that, I was never invested as such in the characters, and therefore I just didn't really care about them. Asuma Shinohara's father, being the head of the companies investigating, had a lot of potential from a storytelling perspective, but unfortunately they don't really deliver on any of it. They make reference to it, the fact that it could directly impact, his motivation in following through with this case. But aside from that, it's never explored in a proper way. You don't really get any interaction between those two characters. And I felt like there you could have had a potentially, emotional development with those characters and exploring their relationship. Whilst that might be done in the series or some point down the line, looking at this film on its own, they don't do that. As I'm reviewing this film as a standalone thing, it's definitely something I wish that they did. But overall, Patlabor the movie is a very interesting mystery crime thriller that's well directed by Mamoru Oshii. It's got great visuals, fantastic animation, stunning background work. It is a very well made movie with a very interesting plotline to it. When it comes to characterization, that is certainly not its strong point and is really a weakness. I definitely enjoyed my time with it. I appreciate the craftsmanship on display. Will I ever go back to it though? I'm not sure. So with all that in mind, I'm going to give Patlabor the movie a B. Before I get out there though, please do leave a like on this video. Also subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Stay tuned for my review of Patlabor the Movie 2, Patlabor the Movie 3, and then a ranking of the trilogy. Turn on notification bell so you know exactly when those videos go up. But as always, thank you so much for tuning into mchat today, and I'll see you guys next time.